Hello, friends and enemies. It's me, V. I've PCOS, that's why I have a beard. How are we all doing? It's been a while. So we need to talk. We need to talk because it has to do with aging and everything. As you all know, I'm in my 30s. I'm in my late 30s, and I am not fearful of getting older. I know some of you are like, really? You're not fearful of dying? I'm not fearful of death because I've made peace with it. I'm like, everyone dies. I think my thing will just be missing people that will pass before me. That's my biggest fear. But overall, I'm like, I'm going to die. Everyone dies. However, the one thing that I know that I will not like about being older is how others treat me. What do I mean by that? Well, glad you asked. I remember when I worked at a casino, there were older people that would come in. And I remember their names and everything. They were nice, lovely people. And they would come in for breakfast. They never really stayed for lunch, but they were the older crowd that would come in, and that's how they had their community. They would talk to their friends and everything. They would talk to me. And I just remember them. And I was on the bus today, and for some reason, I thought about three people, and I'm like, are they okay? Because I stopped working there in 2013. And it hit me like, hey, wait a minute. I don't know if they're still alive. They were in their 80s. And I don't know if they're still alive. I don't know what happened after the start of the pandemic. Did their kids put them in old folks' homes like my old neighbor was? Which, let me back and Quentin Tarantino that shit. Her husband died. She ended up breaking her hip. And her kids, who lived out of the country, not out of the country, but out of the state, were like, we can't take care of her. So they put her in an old folks home in April of 2020. A week after they put her in the old folks home because she had broken her leg or broken her hip from falling out the bed, she contracted COVID, and they called her, and then, the old folks home called and said like, hey, your mom has COVID. So they called my mom, and as they were calling my mom and saying like, hey, you're her neighbor, just so you know, she has COVID, blah, blah, blah. They called back and said she died. Like, it took her that quick. And my biggest fear, I think, is, will I have family members that will be like, I can't take care of you, and they'll put me in an old folks home? Or will society treat me so horrifically that if I die, they'll be like, it happens. Now, some of you are like, where did you get this? Well, I had a great uncle, and he was doing fine until two car accidents. The first car accident was a teenager who didn't have insurance. She hit him, and she totaled his car. The second one happened, and he hit his head. In both accidents, actually, the impact was so great that his head was damaged, his brain. And he then went downhill. The second one, because his car was totaled and he couldn't talk, they said, oh yeah, he obviously he was at fault. But witnesses said no. The woman this is the second car accident, she ran the red light and hit him as he was going through a green light. But because his car was totaled and she had said, hey, that's what happened, they took her at her word versus the eyewitnesses. Take from it what you will. But this has been told to me. So maybe shit happened that I don't know of, but this is what was told to me. Upon him waking up, he didn't know where he was. He couldn't remember his address, and he started to go down. He ended up getting dementia. And or some type of dementia. He ended up getting something where family said, let's put him in an old folks home. And now the old folks home that they put him in, mind you, this was not my mom. My mom's like, I'm not putting my own piece in it. The old folks home, from what I gathered, because my mom does talk on the phone, and when I was visiting her, I could hear this information, was $10,000 a month. So they were using his money that he had left over. And that particular place, not a lot of people did research on. They didn't look into it and say, hey, would Better Business Bureau say that this is a bad place to send your family members? Hey, why don't we go through the entire thing and look how the staff treats the elderly patients instead of just assuming, hey, our family member has flies on him because they put a diaper on him and they didn't change the diaper. Let's move him. No. And the people that did say, hey, let's move them, the other family members like, no, it's a one-time thing. So they went through his money like that, like it was just water. He ended up going downhill and then he died. I say that because that's one of the scary things I'm thinking of. Are my cousins, because I do not have children, I only have my older sister, are my cousins, the ones that are younger than me, are they going to be in charge of where I should be placed? And that's my fear, that I'm going to get up there in age and they're going to be like, no, we're going to put you in an old folks home. Or if I have kids, they're going to be like, we're going to put you in old folks home instead of keeping you with us. I look at society, and society says, hey, you are great, you are awesome, until you get 60. Then fuck you. Fuck you. You're useless. I've seen all the ageist jokes. I have seen how people have treated people that are 60 plus. And it's kind of a, what the fuck, why are you doing the shit you're doing? And people say, well, they're old, who cares, blah, 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 without realizing a proverb that I heard once upon a time. The proverb was, never make fun of someone who is old, because one day you will be old. Never make fun of someone who's sick, because one day you could be sick. And never make fun of someone that is the fool, because one day you could be the fool. I've always played that in my mind over the years. I learned and heard about it when I was 14, and it's just something that is stuck in my mind, because anytime I judge someone or I make fun of them, I think, what if I was in their position? Especially now, I'm like, what if I'm in their position? And I try to stay away from that. But I look at society and how this pandemic started, where people were like, your grandparents are going to die. Who cares if they, choke on their own fluids and suffocate? Who cares? I want to go out to Coachella with my friends. And then I think of my old not my old coworker, but I just think of people who died from COVID, like my old neighbor, and how they were most likely scared and elderly or young, and at the beginning had no idea what the fuck was going on. And they were just struggling to breathe. And people at that time had no idea. And then I think of this woman, Lisa Edwards. This is the thing that really fucks with me and has stayed on my mind. Lisa Edwards was a woman who complained of, she said, hey, I'm not leaving this hospital because I think I'm having a stroke. There is body cam footage of her as she's talking. It's like 7 minutes where she is talking and she starts to slur her words and she says, I'm having a stroke. And they said, no, you're not. The hospital called the cops. The cops are the ones that said, no, you're not. you're just faking it. You're not having a stroke. In fact, one of the officers went and said, it's the Lord's day, and I just want to have a donut and some coffee. You're faking it. And she said, I'm not faking it, please. I can't breathe. I need my inhaler. They're like, we looked through your purse. It's not there. We're going to go and take away your wheelchair because it's the hospital's anyway. She needed a wheelchair. These fuckers took her into custody. And she became unresponsive and went back to the fucking hospital that, according to Lisa Edwards, didn't even fucking check her out. They just said, you're fine. They didn't even fucking do any extensive research on her when she went to the hospital to say, I think I'm having a stroke. These fuckheads take her back to the hospital where they pronounce her dead. And the prosecution's like, hey, there's nothing we can really do. You know, they didn't know. I think about that shit. That's the fucked up shit that stays in my head, that stays in my life, in my brain, because I think about how when someone is saying, I need help, you have the people that are considered like, they are the best of the best. If the cops and the hospitals can't fucking take care of you, who the fuck can? If somebody says you're faking it because they had other people that faked it, what fucking good are they when a real crisis comes up? They're useless. And it fucking irritates and angers me that shit happened and they get away with it. The 4 cops that all berated and yelled at Lisa Edwards, they get to live another life. And I hope and I pray every fucking time that they close their eyes, they see her as she pleads for help. And I hope and pray that every fucking time they try to get sleep, they hear her asking them for help. And I hope that if that shit happens to them, they don't get the same fucking treatment that she got. So that's what I'm thinking of on this Sunday night. It is not, how am I going to do things when I'm elderly? It's, how is the fucking society going to treat me once I get to age 50 or 60? They're so keen to have youth and everything else, but then they shit on you. When you're youth, they shit on you. And when you're elderly, they definitely shit on you and tell you that you have no fucking reason to be alive. And me being spiteful, I'm going to continue to be alive. And I'm going to continue doing my shit until I'm in my 90s or 100s because I'm spiteful. And if you tell me to go die, I say, you know what? I'm taking that as a challenge. And I'm going to live to outlive you. So that's the whole gist of this video. Just me bitching on a Sunday. Talk to you later. And as always, fuck Tom Brady.